Well, hi everybody, bonjour tout le monde. I'll start in English and then I'll go to French and then Tim will talk in English. So first and foremost, we're both happy to be part of this important delegation. Why? Because of course this is a new year and we're now in a new era of partnership with China. And so it was important for us and the Prime Minister to come as this first visit to Beijing and meeting obviously with Premier Li and tomorrow with President Xi. We've seen since the beginning of the year, there's lots of disruptions around the world. Maybe Venezuela, maybe Iran, maybe obviously a lot of unpredictability south of our border. But we've said it many times, and we continue to say it. There are a lot of things that we cannot control, but there are lots of things we can control. And we'll focus on what we can control. And who we do business with is something we can control. And that's exactly what markets and that's exactly what businesses are looking for. Stability, reliability. And so that is why Tim and I, obviously with the Prime Minister, supporting the Prime Minister, have met many businesses today. Maybe in natural resources, energy, maybe in clean tech, maybe also much more in manufacturing. And the goal was to see what type of investments could be made in Canada and how also can Canadian companies export to Canada, to China. Because it's important to remember ourselves, China is the third biggest investor in Canada with $50 billion invested in 2024, but also China is our second biggest client in the world because it is our second biggest market where we export. And so, as we continue these conversations, and as of course there's important diplomatic engagement, we want to make sure that this makes sense to Canadians, for Canadians, that this creates good jobs back home, that while a lot of workers are asking themselves, how can they continue to have a good job? And while anxiety is high, we think that coming here will create much more certainty and we can continue to work on stability and therefore prosperity for Canadians. Donc, je vais le dire en français. En français, en fait, on est dans une nouvelle ère et on commence l'année avec une délégation importante ici en Chine. Pourquoi? Parce qu'on pense que c'est important de créer une nouvelle relation, un nouveau partenariat avec la Chine. Nous pensons également que, alors que il y a beaucoup de perturbations partout à travers le monde. On l'a vu depuis le début de l'année, que ce soit le Venezuela, que ce soit l'Iran. Il y a beaucoup de tensions géopolitiques et ces tensions-là ont des impacts directement sur les marchés et nécessairement sur les affaires. Et donc, notre objectif comme gouvernement, c'est de s'assurer qu'on peut contrôler ce qu'on peut contrôler parce qu'on sait qu'il y a plein de choses qu'on ne peut pas contrôler dans le monde. Et le fait d'être ici et de pouvoir travailler avec le gouvernement chinois et travailler avec le milieu des affaires chinois fait en sorte qu'on est capable d'offrir une certaine stabilité aux compagnies canadiennes, alors bien entendu qu'il y a beaucoup d'incertitudes. Et ça, c'est notre objectif comme gouvernement, de réduire les risques d'affaires et de faire d'entreprendre des relations diplomatiques qui vont permettre cette stabilité-là. Entre-temps, ce qu'on sait, c'est que la Chine est le troisième plus grand investisseur au Canada, avec 50 milliards d'investissements en 2024, et également le deuxième plus grand client du Canada dans le monde, parce que c'est le deuxième plus grand marché d'exportation pour le Canada. Entre-temps, on a eu l'occasion, Tim et moi, en soutenant le Premier ministre, de rencontrer des compagnies chinoises qui font affaire dans des domaines comme l'énergie, comme le secteur manufacturier, comme également tout ce qui est en lien avec aussi les nouvelles technologies. Et on pense qu'on est capable essentiellement de faire atterrir des investissements qui vont créer des emplois au Canada. Et bref, mon point est le suivant, c'est que nous sommes capables de créer plus d'emplois au Canada. Nous sommes capables de faire en sorte que les gens qui, ce soir, se posent la question à quel point ils peuvent continuer à avoir un bon emploi, bien, notre objectif est de pouvoir leur donner cette assurance-là, même s'il y a plusieurs choses qui se passent au sud de notre frontière et même si on sait que ces perturbations géopolitiques vont continuer. en fin de prise de parole, j'aimerais juste mentionner à quel point ça m'a fait plaisir de travailler avec François Legault. Le premier ministre du Québec et moi, on se connaît depuis très, très longtemps. J'étais là lors de la première réunion qu'il a tenue chez lui à l'époque pour la création de la CAQ. Et au cours des années, j'ai eu l'occasion de travailler avec lui et avec ses ministres. Je pense qu'il peut être fier de tout son investissement en politique parce que je pense qu'il a su transformer la scène politique québécoise. On l'a vu certainement durant la COVID, être capable d'offrir un leadership important dans des moments où les Québécois avaient besoin de leadership fort et de solidarité. Et je lui souhaite tout le meilleur pour la suite des choses. Ça va me faire plaisir de continuer à travailler avec lui dans une autre capacité.
Envisagez-vous de diminuer les...
Je peux-tu, I think, Minister Hodgson.
I'll be brief. What I would like Canadians to know is today was a very important day in our relationship with China and what it means for Canadian workers going forward. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes. A quote from the chairman of the Standing Committee. It is a new era in the relationship between Canada and China. It is a full turnaround in our relationship. China wants to move forward in a mutually beneficial way with Canada. The Premier said tonight, we desire a new strategic partnership with Canada. Today we signed 8 agreements, as you all saw. I signed an MOU with Administrator Wong of the NEA, and tomorrow I'll be over talking with him about how we take that to the next level. Today I also signed an MOU with Minister Ni around the use of more Canadian wood in Chinese construction. Tomorrow night I'll be with him visiting their home exhibition where we will see the latest technologies and how we can use more Canadian wood in China. These are good things for Canadian workers. These are good things for Canada. And this is just the beginning. There's more to come. This is not a one and done. We will be back here more, looking for more ways to get Canadian products into this country so more Canadians have good paying jobs.
The MOU that you signed today puts a lot more emphasis on oil and gas, and specifically Canada looking to expand its supply to the United States. That's a big difference than the one in 2017 that was signed between Trudeau and the Chinese government. What opportunity do you think China offers when it comes to the export of oil and gas?
So I disagree with that framing. I think this was a framing around Canada and China sharing a view on how to get to net zero. This was a framing around how we work together in, yes, conventional energy, but also in clean energy. We met today with a number of clean energy companies who are world leaders in things like onshore and offshore wind, in world leaders, things like solar, world leaders in things like grid storage. We had comprehensive discussions around how they would like to bring that technology to Canada, help us deploy that so we can deliver affordable green power to power the transition to net zero. Yes, we also talked about conventional energy. We talked about it in the context of they really like that we produce the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world. They are an investor in our first LNG project. They are going to be an investor in our second LNG project. And they are a major user of our conventional oil and gas.
Are you those, sir? Can you make clear? Are you welcoming or trying to
you guys will all have the chance to ask questions. Okay, let's.
Is Canada
Yes, Ashley.
considering lowering its tariff on Chinese EVs or welcoming more production in Ontario of Chinese EVs to try and get China to lower its tariffs? And do you see a breakthrough as being possible this visit?
So a couple of things. There's still negotiation happening, and of course the Prime Minister will be able to answer your question tomorrow. There's an important meeting tomorrow with President Xi regarding also how can we make sure that we do more Canada and China together. I think a lot of people in the auto sector right now, I'm thinking obviously of auto workers, have been preoccupied when hearing what is happening south of the border and the different comments regarding the capacity of Canada to continue to export autos, cars across North America. And so that's why my team and I have been working on a new auto strategy, because our goal is to make sure that we favor auto production in Canada. We need to make sure that we continue to have a very strong auto sector. There's 125,000 people working in the sector with direct jobs. Indirect, it becomes 400,000 people involved in the auto sector. And at the same time, we're trying to attract a lot of investments from Korea, from Germany, and also we're looking at different partners around the world. And so these are ongoing conversations, and that's why we'll have more to say tomorrow.
Est-ce que vous envisagez de diminuer les tarifs douaniers sur les véhicules électriques chinois à 50%?
Donc, on va continuer à avoir des conversations. Il y a encore des négociations qui ont lieu. L'important, c'est que...
envisagé 50%?
Il y a encore des négociations qui ont lieu et demain, il y a une rencontre très importante, bien entendu, la rencontre entre le président Xi et le premier ministre, le premier ministre Carney.
Mr. Hodgson.
Non, sorry. Je vais
Yeah,
parler en
sorry.
français. Puis OK, merci. Et donc, dans les circonstances, on va continuer à avoir ces conversations-là. Mais ce qui est très, très important de comprendre, c'est qu'on sait qu'il y a 125 000 emplois dans le secteur de l'automobile qui sont affectés par la nouvelle position de l'administration américaine par rapport au secteur automobile dans l'espace nord-américain. Et mon message pour les gens qui sont dans le secteur automobile, c'est que le Canada, nous, on travaille présentement sur une nouvelle stratégie dans le secteur de l'automobile et notre objectif va être de favoriser la production automobile au Canada. On essaie d'attirer des investissements de partout à travers le monde, certainement de la Corée, certainement de l'Allemagne et on regarde d'autres juridictions. Donc, on va continuer à avoir ces conversations-là. Demain, j'aurai l'occasion aussi de rencontrer d'autres compagnies dans les secteurs manufacturiers et automobiles ici en Chine.
Mr. Hodgson, can I ask you, in the joint statement, the joint roadmap today that was released by both countries, you welcomed investment in a number of areas, including energy. In 2012, the Canadian government shut the oil sands off to further investment from China. That was in 2012. Are you open to more investment from China in the oil sands now?
So today, China is a major investor in the oil sands, both as an operator and as a passive investor. They desire to have more of our energy. As long as they're a responsible producer, we're open to more investment from China.
Can I ask you to clarify that answer, please? The 2012 policy walled off new investment, and you say they're an active player today. Sure, because of previous investments. Are you open to changing the Investment Canada Act to bring in new, more Chinese investment in the oil sands?
Look, they're already major investors. They have the opportunity to increase their production. If they, like anyone else, is going to invest in new operations, they would go through the Investment Canada Act. But let me be clear. We are here because we share a goal. We share a goal on getting to net zero. We believe we have lots of common interests with respect to how we use clean energy to get there, and we have common interests around how to get there on a conventional basis. And we're going to exploit that for the benefit of Canadian workers and for Canadians.
And I think just to add to that, it's important to remember that the Investment Canada Act was recently modified to increase powers of the government to make sure that we would have the guardrails important when it comes to national security and economic security. So there's no need to change the legislation. We have these powers, and we'll look at case by case. But as Tim was saying, we already have major investments in the sector.
So you don't view it as a national security issue. I guess what I'm trying to understand is how does this government view investment by China, including the state-owned companies that you met today, into that sector?
That's already the case. That decision has already been made in the past.
They operate today.
Yeah, that's it.
They have the opportunity to increase their production if they do it in a responsible way and want to add to that, and it complies with the Investment Canada Act. That creates jobs for Canadians. That's good for Canada.
And I think, oui, je vais répondre, Laurence, okay? Mais donne-moi 30 secondes. I think also what is important is we're following what's going on in the world. We're definitely following what's going on in Venezuela. And so we need to make sure that we have good opportunities and good clients, and definitely that's been the case with China.
Okay, est-ce que vous voulez exporter davantage de pétrole vers la Chine?
On le fait déjà.
Mais est-ce
En-
que vous voulez en exporter
60% de TMX est déjà acheté par la Chine.
plus? OK. Je pensais que c'était 30, mais en tout cas, ma question c'est, vous avez parlé de nouvelle ère dans la relation entre le Canada et la Chine. Il y a quelques années, vous avez publié la stratégie Indo-Pacifique et vous disiez la Chine est une puissance de plus en plus perturbatrice. Est-ce que vous êtes d'accord avec ça?
Ben, moi, je pense qu'il y a plein de perturbations partout à travers le monde
Est-ce que la
présentement.
Chine est toujours une...
Donc, attends, laisse-moi finir, s'il te plaît, puis arrête de me couper. OK? Merci. Oui. Hey, I'm speaking and I'm answering. OK? Thank you. Donc, je pense qu'il y a déjà beaucoup de perturbations dans le monde. Puis il y a beaucoup plus de perturbations maintenant qu'à l'époque où j'ai publié la stratégie Indo-Pacifique. Et donc, notre objectif, c'est d'amener de la stabilité. Vous savez quoi? Les conversations ici ont été effectuées de façon plus prévisible et stable que parfois avec d'autres pays, dont notre voisin. Donc, notre objectif a été de pouvoir justement avoir des ententes diplomatiques qui sont bonnes dans l'intérêt du Canada. Ce qui était clair à l'époque dans la stratégie Indo-Pacifique, c'est qu'on allait avoir une approche pragmatique, ce qui est le cas présentement, et on allait s'assurer qu'on allait défendre nos intérêts nationaux, qui est vraiment le but même de la visite aujourd'hui.
En tout respect, je ne pense pas que ça répond à ma question. Est-ce que vous voyez la Chine comme une puissance de plus en plus perturbatrice?
Moi, je pense que l'objectif, c'est de travailler avec la Chine alors que le monde est en pleine perturbation. Et présentement, il y a plusieurs pays qui sont des puissances perturbatrices.
Comme la Chine?
Et donc, l'objectif du Canada, c'est de pouvoir travailler avec différents pays. Ce qui est très, très important aussi, c'est que, puis ça, je l'ai mentionné à plusieurs reprises, c'est que pour contrer la montée du protectionnisme, certainement du protectionnisme américain, le Canada doit être capable de travailler avec plusieurs pays sur des approches de libre-échange. Certainement avec l'Europe, certainement avec l'Asie et aussi avec la Chine. Parce que si on n'est pas capable de travailler de façon multilatérale avec plusieurs pays, on va être encore plus dépendant au niveau des États-Unis. Et donc, c'est pour ça qu'on est ici. On est capable de travailler sur plusieurs niveaux en même temps. Je pense aussi que le premier ministre l'a dit. En 2025, on était très réactif par rapport à ce qui se passait aux États-Unis. En 2026, on va être stratégique et on va être proactif.
Can I just ask a general question about investing in China? There's a ton of experts we've spoken to in the business community in Canada who are gun shy about investing in China. Joint ventures aren't such. It's China win. It's not win-win. We're using burner phones for the first time when we covered this because China spies on journalists and businessmen. China intercepts communications. Is China really the right kind of partner for Canadian industry?
Listen, we've been clear-eyed. We're eyes wide open. We know this. But there's been investments by Canadian companies for years here. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Magna. Magna, one of the biggest car auto parts companies in the world. They have 30,000 people working here. We're meeting with Manulife. We're meeting with BMO. These companies have been in China for years. Now, obviously, we're having these conversations with the Chinese government. If they're going to invest in our country, they need to make sure that our companies are able to invest and have access to stability and have access to a form of certainty. And so that's what we're working on. When we engage with China and we engage with businesses like Tim and I have been doing, we put everything on the table to address these risks. And that's why this visit is so important, and it's been a focus of the Prime Minister.
Minister, what was the purpose of your meeting with CATL today? Do you want to see them more involved in the EV supply chain in Canada, or what was your discussion with that company today?
So Tim can talk obviously about energy storage, so maybe you want to do
So-
that, and then
So
I'll-
CATL is involved in 3 grid storage projects already today in Canada, in Ontario. They have some of the world's very best grid storage solutions that turns intermittent renewable energy into baseload energy. That's really important on an affordable way to get to net zero. They are deploying that technology all around the world. They're deploying it in the United States. They're deploying it in the UK. They're deploying it in France. If we can use that technology to help us get to net zero in a more affordable way, that's good for Canada.
And if
So
I
it was
may
more
add,
about that.
if
Sorry.
if I may add also, CATL is invested in the U.S. So they've been also building battery storage plants for basically data centers, and they've had also a partnership with Ford. motors in the US. And so these are exploratory discussions, but we are willing to see what is feasible. Of course, we already have 2 battery plants in Canada, which are really important. The one in Windsor, which is Nexstar, which is a joint venture between LG and Stellantis, and another one also in St. Thomas that is being built as we speak, which is obviously from Volkswagen. So we're open for business when it comes to batteries.
So it's more about that side of CATL's business, the plant storage, as opposed to the EV battery making storage.
We can look at both, and so we've been able to attract investments from Germany and from Korea, and so with important guardrails, and of course we're looking at to see what could be done as well.
The government wants to export
Last
more
question, please.
petroleum and
Dernière question.
The government wants to export more petroleum and LNG to China, our markets here. Did you get any firm commitments of that yet this visit?
What we heard loud and clear is China is looking for reliable trading partners that don't use energy for coercion. China is already a major consumer of Canadian energy, like we heard when I was in the UK, like we heard when I was in Germany, like my colleagues have already heard in Japan and Korea. The world wants more of what Canada has. Canada has the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world, and we are decarbonizing our barrels and more aggressively looking to decarbonize our barrels than any other country in the world. That's consistent with the values of many of our trading partners, including the Chinese. They want more of what we've got.
Would they be eligible for Canadian tax credits, clean energy tax credits, Chinese companies?
A buyer of, an off-taker of energy doesn't get an ITC. It's the people who build the plants that
It's the
get the
producers.
Did they
ITCs.
say, did they say that they were gonna buy more of Canadian oil? Did they say we wanna buy more Canadian oil? Did they say that?
They are very clear they would like more Canadian energy products, yes.
All right.
All right,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye tout le monde. Bye.
Thank you.